I'm here today with a panel of instructors in our English ALP program, and we're going to talk a little bit to new or interested faculty about how the program got started. So Karin, you were one of the founding members. Can you please tell us how the ALP program got started here at COD?
So there was a big team that got assembled that had to do with trying to improve student success. And the administrators on the team had pre-selected focus areas for the team. And then they kind of sorted us into working groups. And there was a working group for developmental English. The other ones were developmental math and online classes, and there might have been one other. This was quite a long time ago now. So the concerns were a little bit different at that point. The vocabulary that we used was a little different at that point, but you know, the focus was on trying to identify areas where there were big opportunities to help students get more traction in the curriculum. So the developmental English working group had a series of meetings and started doing a lot of research, and at some point I discovered this model, the accelerated learning program model, that was started at the Community College of Baltimore County. And there was a guy named Peter Adams who was like the evangelist of ALP. And I had run into him at a conference or read something that he wrote or something like that, and I became a sub-evangelist of ALP. And essentially the idea of ALP is that it eliminates a really big off-ramp for students. So instead of having students take a developmental English class and then have an opportunity to decide they're not going to come back, they would take the developmental English class at the same time as they took the intro composition class, our English 1101 class. So we did a bunch of research and looked at the numbers and, you know, tried to figure out how it would work within our curriculum and stuff like that, but that's the essential story.
So you mentioned that there were different class options before ALP. What makes this model better than the classes that came before?
So the big thing is that overlap between the two classes. So students who were really reasonably fairly close to being ready for English 1101 would be in it at the same time that they were in that developmental class, which was supporting them. And a really important element of the ALP model was that the same instructor taught both classes. So if I'm teaching that English 1101 class and I'm also teaching that support class, then I can really tailor the assignments to each other and really work with the students on, you know, if I have a particular group of students and it's a pretty small group, just 10 students, I can really work with those 10 students and what they need on any given day. Or if I start to notice that there's something that they're really getting hung up on, then I can address that.
I know when I'm teaching it, I sometimes describe it as like a lecture and a lab, right? And I think because students understand that model, that makes sense to them.
Yeah.
I was thinking too that, you know, one of the nice things about the co-requisite is that thinking of it as a lecture and a lab, or thinking of it as a class with support, instead of students having to earn their way through all these gates to get to 1101, they're placed in 1101 right away, but they're given the support that they need to succeed. And I just think that's a way better, you know, emotional sense than what we had in the past.
Well, I think too the fact that the same instructor is teaching both classes means that the instructor has a sort of more opportunity to develop a particularly personal relationship with the students in the ALP section. You know, we're overwhelmed with a lot of students in our classes, and I don't feel like I have the bandwidth to develop a personal relationship with very many of my students. But the ALP students, you know, I think back to a particular section in a particular year and I'm like, oh, I remember every single one of them.
I do too.
Yeah.
And their writing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. So thinking about the benefits to teaching ALP, since this is a video intended, you know, partly to attract new faculty, Mary, Can you tell us a little bit, what are you like about teaching ALP? You haven't been part of the program quite as long as Karin, but you've been doing it for a while.
I think for me, a really integral part of that was immersing me within my faculty, my colleagues. I came in from out of state and I had never taught before at a college setting. I was fresh out of my master's program, and it connected me to different faculty members, and it allowed me to become part of a team, which is incredibly important at any point in your career, but especially at the start of it. So not only do we have a focus on building community within our students in the classroom, but it also helped me build my own personal networking as well. So I found that to be really beneficial, and it helped connect me to all sorts of other parts of our campus too.
My answer would be essentially the same as Mary's, that I think I was at COD for maybe 5 or 6 years before joining ALP, and as an adjunct faculty member, I never got to work with colleagues. So being asked to be on the ALP team was the first chance that I got to get to know colleagues, but also design curriculum together, get a sense of what they're doing in the classroom, troubleshoot assignments. So that's easily my favorite part. But I think what Mary was alluding to at the end as well, one of the features of ALP is you really get to know other departments, whether it's Warsaw or the counseling, career services, because you're bringing those people into the classroom. So I think there's a lot of opportunity to get to know COD as well.
Yeah, I mean, teaching can sometimes be somewhat lonely, right? And so we sometimes think about making connections for students and what it feels like to be maybe a student that doesn't love writing, struggles with writing in a class. But having to teach students like that, or teach students in general, is sometimes kind of lonely. So, you know, being able to have interactions like this in a small group and be part of a teaching cohort, that's one of the things that I like best about ALP, and one of the reasons that, you know, we're making this video to continue to try to recruit. If you are an instructor that's thinking of helping us with our ALP program, we know how difficult and intimidating it sometimes is when you are approaching a class you haven't taught before. But we've prepared these OER resources in order to make it easier for you. We really do want you to be part of our community. So for more information, please pay attention to the links that we've provided on the page. And if you want to reach out to any members of the team, we're always here for you.